April, you direct commissioned. You went from being a sergeant first class to a second lieutenant. I'm Joe Seaman. Welcome to Raven Conversations. And today I'm joined by Second Lieutenant Taylor Anderson. He is with Alpha, one of the 161 in Yakima and Wenatchee. Sort of, you kind of leading both. You're also in recruiting and retention. You're the retention officer for the state. But your story is crazy awesome. You direct commissioned back in April. And love to kind of share that experience and kind of educate others on what that means about being a direct commissioned officer in the Guard. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So intro and background on yourself.
Yeah. So, I am a native of Arizona originally, but I was an Army brat growing up, and I joined active duty back in 2007, and I started my active duty career pursuing the Ranger Regiment. Got there, spent about 5 years in 2nd Ranger Battalion up here at Fort Lewis and JBLM, Washington, and then transitioned to the Guard right after that. Wasn't initially going to stick around, and then decided, this is actually a pretty cool gig. So I've been doing that for like the last 15 or so years.
Yeah. So how'd you learn about the Guard?
That was, honestly, it was by happenstance. I had finished my last deployment with 2nd Ranger Battalion and decided, I'm going to transition out, figure out what to do with the rest of my life. And I went to Waller Hall, and I don't know if there was a brief or not, but I ran into somebody that I knew, and he was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to the Idaho National Guard," and he started telling me about that. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but I'm not moving to Idaho. So he's like, well, check out Washington, see what they have. And so I did. I just walked up to one of the career counselors. I was like, hey, what do you have for me? And he presented, he presented this option where he said, you have 3 years left on your inactive contract. I can cut that in half and give you stability so you don't deploy, establish your family life here, civilian, and then you can get out if you want. So I said, oh, that sounds like a really good deal. And I took him up on it and signed up for 1.5 years, and that's all I was going to do. And then after my first annual training, which was probably about 4 months into being in the Guard, I was like, oh, this place rocks. These are my people. So just stuck it out since then.
Good. Yeah. And you've been around for quite a while. So it's going to be interesting for the audience to hear the next part. So April, you direct commissioned. You went from being a sergeant first class to a second lieutenant. So how does that process work? How does this happen?
Well, for me, again, as happenstance, a total accident. I was going to go through OCS, which is the traditional route, and I had started my packet for that. And I just started ADOS with RRB, and that was solely for the intent to babysit my packet, give me some more time to, get all the stuff taken care of and line that all up. And Colonel Osmer, the G3, comes in to talk to somebody about, a hunting trip or something or the other, and introduced myself, told him that I was going to go to OCS and commission. And he just gave me a look up and down. He's like, why are you doing that? I was like, well, what else am I supposed to do? I'm not going to ROTC. I already have my degree. I don't know. He's like, well, just do what I did back in the day, direct commission. So then I went back to the officer strength manager in RRB, and I was like, hey, have you heard of this? And he's like, not for infantry. So we both did a lot of research to figure out what it takes to do that. And
yeah. And what's that eligibility look like?
So one of the things is, you have to show a subject matter expertise in the field that you want to commission in. So if you're going infantry, you've got to have a subject matter expertise in infantry, and that's established in a couple different ways. So they look at your schools that you've gone. So Ranger School, they look at badges or awards. For me, it was Ranger School, Expert Infantry Badge. I did have time in Special Operations, and then I did the NCOESs, appropriate for that. And then they look at your NCOERs, and you have to get HQ or MQ on the last 5. And so what that means is you have to have at least 5 NCOERs to be eligible for the direct commission. So you have to have been an NCO for 5 years rated. And if you get HQ or MQ on all of those, then you're eligible. And then the process, the only other major difference is instead of just stopping at your battalion commander for a letter of recommendation, you actually have to get it from the tag in the state CSM. by the time I got to that point, I think word had already gotten around. And so Sergeant Major Honeycutt said, hey, let's just get a video conference with all parties involved. And we just sat there and asked me some questions. I gave him some background on myself. And they said, all right, cool, let's do this. And so then it streamlined that part of the process.
Nice. What are some of the benefits you've seen so far?
Well, I skipped OCS. That's probably the biggest benefit, because OCS, like the accelerated program's 8 weeks long. Traditional is a couple of years of doing it over like drill weekends and annual trainings. And then you have the federal program, which I want to say is like 14 or 16 weeks long. And so I just skipped all of that. So I still have to do the infantry officer basic course to get branch qualified in the infantry. But I didn't have to go through OCS before that. So it just saved me time.
Yeah.
And I got to, wear the rank already. So
yeah. Well, and it sounds like if you're a, subject matter expert in a field, it can be any field.
Yeah.
If you have the right stuff in your packet, you can kind of just go through that process and start doing it.
Absolutely.
So there's no like, hey, you've got to be this job specific. It's like if you're an intel guy and you know your job, you can just do it. Most go warrant officer, I would assume, just for the longevity. But
yeah, I mean, warrants are cool.
They also don't want to make PowerPoint presentations. Like
it's very true. Yeah, that is the downside. Is I'm just absorbed this ability to be good at Excel and PowerPoint just by commissioning. So now a keyboard warrior. But
yeah. So for those that aren't in service, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are other direct commission options.
Absolutely.
Those are more specific. Can you kind of talk about those?
Yeah. So the common ones are JAG, the Judge Advocate General, which are the lawyers, and then AMED or Medical Corps. So doctors, nurses, physicians assistants, DOs, dentists, that type of thing. Those are the two most common avenues to a direct commission. The qualifications are more or less the same, but they develop a subject matter expertise by nature of having that degree, right? So if you have an MD or an RN after your name, or, if you went to Willamette Law School in Oregon and you got your, degree, that counts. You still have to go through your branch training, which is different depending on which branch you're going to. But yeah, you come in, I believe, as a first lieutenant. So you skip 01, and then when you're done with training, you pick up captain pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. That's the route my dad went back in the 90s. And so I remember he graduated med school, and then we got stationed here, actually, at Fort Lewis in the late 90s, and he was a captain as soon as we got here. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool to, just came here, and then all of a sudden he's captain.
Yeah, it was cool, but also, as a kid, I was so uninformed about all that stuff. I thought that was normal. And so then I see all these second lieutenants walking around. I'm like, what is this? Who are these guys?
So for those that don't know, how do they even find out if they're eligible, one, for direct commissioning, and where would they find that information at?
So you can contact anybody in the recruiting and retention battalion and get put in contact with the officer strength management team. And so they have different specialties. So you have like basic branch for, infantry, FA, things like that. We've got one NCO, and she focuses primarily on the specialty branch direct commissions, the AMED, the JAGs, things like that, chaplains. But if you get in contact with that office, they will sit you down. They have a whole checklist, and they say, this is what we need. And they can help you pull some of it. And then other stuff you're going to have to, be able to present to them. And they'll walk you through your options. I know if you do, let's say, for example, you only have 3 NCOERs, but you still want a commission, and, now's the time in your life to do it. You can still do OCS, and you can apply for the accelerated program. You still do a couple drills with 205th, but as long as they assess you as being a viable candidate, because it's a more rigorous version of OCS, because they condense everything in 8 weeks. A lot of field classes, from what I've been told, so you got to be pretty fit to kind of keep up. But yeah, they'll tell you your options, and they'll walk you through what's best for you and what you're eligible for.
Yeah. So I didn't ask this earlier. Was it weird that first day walking back into work and wearing a completely different rank and people calling you sir? And
it's still weird.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I remember the day I got promoted from 04 to 05. Now you got majors calling you sir, and you're kind of like, no, that ain't right. There's something going on there. So it's different. It
is different. It's especially different, I think, role wise for me in the infantry when I M-Day out in Yakima or Wenatchee. I'm used to the NCO role, which is very, nose in, involved in all the inner workings. Like, we get told, what to do, and we figure out the how, and we make it happen. So having to pull back from that is something I have a good platoon sergeant now. And I was fortunate that I've had 2 back-to-back good platoon sergeants now. And they keep me honest, and they tell me, hey, sir, you're in the NCO lane right now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. I'll back up.
Step back and work on PowerPoint slides.
Exactly. Yeah. Just go tell the commander what we're doing so he's aware. I was like, okay, cool. Got it.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, it's great. I'm glad I was given the opportunity to do it. And I think it's like, I joke around with some of the younger kids. It's like Call of Duty. I just prestige. So I'm starting over from square one.
You just ranked up.
Yeah, exactly. Just ranked up, start over and keep going on. I'd stay in the guard a lot longer.
Yeah. So. Well, hey, congratulations again on the promotion. I'm going to say it was a promotion. It definitely is. I imagine you've already heard the lieutenant jokes or, the butter bar jokes.
They're great.
Like I did when I commissioned, but they don't get old, and then you get promoted to captain eventually, and then they stop. So
I kind of played into it too. I bought a Tacoma.
So you got the starter kit already.
I did. I just jump in both feet. That's all I do.
I appreciate you coming on. If you're interested in direct commissioning, we can definitely put the information in the notes of how to contact the Officer Strength Management Group. If you like the video, give it a like. And if you want to watch more about the Guard, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it, sir.